Should be in your email now, comma. If you don't see it, check your spam, period. Hey, success. Good. Makes me so happy because when I try to do Kristen, and when there's something technology wise happening and you can't talk somebody through it, it's very troubling. It's like, but I can't, I'm not over there. I don't know your system.
Right.
So, yes.
Well, I had to download the app and then,
Uh,
jump through the hoops. So got it done.
Good, perfect, nice. Well, it's very exciting, and I'm excited to use this technology for a lot of different things.
Hmm.
Um, I'll tell you a little bit about it while we're just kind of warming up. So the idea is that this system allows you to do this kind of interview, and then you can send the whole thing to YouTube, which I haven't posted to YouTube in a coon's age.
Okay.
But also lets you take the clip and send it into this other software called Opus, which cuts it up into bite-sized bits depending on the topic that you're talking about at any point in time.
Okay.
So then you can use those for like Facebook Shorts and stuff like that
Okay.
and Reels. So I said, hey, it looks pretty cool. So let's give it a go
Okay.
and look to promote other LBN people here in the future. And it's nice to know I've got a good beta test going on here. So without further ado, I am going to introduce Pazz Colston, who is a fellow member of my local business network. And we're going to talk a little bit about the local business network later. But today she's here in great proportion, talking about homes for heroic veterans. So welcome, Pazz.
Thank you, Kevin. It's so good to be here. Good to see you again. Haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah, we're laughing because we had a networking meeting 2 hours ago.
Exactly.
Um, so I am going to, and this is an aside for you and I, but I talked about it at the meeting today, um, is AI. The things it can do are really sometimes small hinges swing big doors. But
Hmm.
what I did before we came online here was actually ask it for some prompts to talk about what we're going to talk about here today.
Cool.
So I'm gonna ask you, and here's what's difficult for me. I got to be a better podcast host. When I look in the camera, I am looking to you in the audience. But when I want to see you on screen, it looks like I'm looking away.
Right.
So I got to train myself. So, Paz, what first moved you, if you could tell us, to focus specifically on homeless veterans?
Well, I am a veteran that was denied health care benefits or wasn't able to go to the VA for over 37 years. Honorably discharged veteran. And I was stationed in Germany, my last permanent duty station, and my grandmother had a stroke. And I came back home and was stationed at TACOM here in Warren, Michigan for a while. And unbeknownst to me, when I went in the military, there was a clause in my contract that said if you didn't complete 2 years of active duty, you couldn't be seen at the VA. Of course, no one told me that. Of course, no one said to me, they just didn't inform me of this. So when I came back home and my
Mm-hmm.
grandmother had the stroke, after about 3 months, they said to me, you know what, you have two sisters to take care of grandmother, either get out or go back to Germany. Well, my mom had just passed away the year before, so I'm not going back to Germany. So I said, you know what, I'll just get out and finish the remainder of my service time in the reserves. And that's what I did. I got out immediately, went into the reserves. Fast forward to a few months later when I started having pain in my joints and my hips. And these are from injuries I sustained while in training. So when I tried
Mm-hmm.
to go to the VA, they said, when I went down there, they said, there's a clause in your contract. You didn't complete 2 years. At that time, I think I'd only completed maybe 18 months. So you think
Mm-hmm.
that when the military forced me out, somebody said, hey, if you just finish these last few months, but that wasn't given to me. No one told me that. So I went down there and they told me I couldn't be seen. And I went to my senator, I went to, my commander, went to everybody to try to rectify the situation. And most people didn't know about it. So as time went on, fast forward to a few years later, I was trying to get my disability because during this time, after coming off of active duty, I hadn't even acquired insurance yet. I didn't have a
Oh, wow.
full-time job. I worked as an independent contractor at different law firms, so I didn't have insurance. So I tried to get Social Security disability. It took me a couple of years to get that. And when I went before the judge, she was just appalled that the military was not taking care of me and an honorably discharged veteran. So she said, okay, I'll disable you for a couple of years. My left hip was really, really bad and didn't know how long I was going to have insurance. So I got my left hip done, did 6 weeks of physical therapy, and got my right hip done, when it really didn't need
Wow.
to be done, but, just trying to get ahead of things. And during this time, between not being able to go to the hospital, not being able to be taken care of, I just started thinking, if I'm going through this, there have got to be other veterans that are having some of the same issues, maybe not specifically my issue, but they're not getting their benefits, and there's a reason why, and most of them give up. So that kind of started my delve into what can I do to help veterans.
Right. And while we talk about homes for heroic veterans, which is your your major focus about getting veterans into sustainable housing and get
Yeah.
them off the streets, the piece of it, correct me if I'm wrong, about just advocating for veterans, as you were talking about, these could be veterans who have places of residence, but they're not taking advantage of their benefits, or they're being taken advantage of by the system. You act as an advocate for them as well, correct?
Yes, I do. Because again, like I said, had I known that I just needed to stay in a couple more months, I most likely would have stayed in. Had I known that it was just going to get rid of any benefits that I had on the medical side, or even being able to make a claim for my benefits. So I can see a veteran in Walmart, or I can see anybody that has on a VA hat, or I don't care what ward it is. I would just kind of walk up to them and introduce myself and ask them, hey, where'd you serve? Get that little conversation going and say, are you getting any benefits? Well, no, when I first came home, I went down
Mm-hmm.
there. They told me no. If I had a nickel for every time I've heard that, no, I went down there, or no, I filed a claim and they turned me down. So they just give up. And I feel like that the system
Mm-hmm.
is designed to do that, just like Social Security. I feel the same way about Social Security. If you put in a claim, you're not going to get your benefits the first time, which I think is sad because you're putting it in for a reason. You need these benefits. And what I
Right.
found is that most veterans will just give up. They go get a job, or they just kind of move on with their life because of the years of horror stories, which are true, that they've heard
Mm-hmm.
about. So they just kind of give up, or they don't even feel like that's a tool that they can put in their tool belt. Hey, I can get this from the VA. Most of them don't, because like I said, it's so difficult. It was actually 37 and a half years before I was able to get any of my benefits. And when I started
Wow.
getting back
Wow.
pay for some of my injuries, I took my own money and purchased our first house and started Homes for Heroic Veterans. So it's
Awesome.
it's definitely needed. And like I said, just helping other veterans. I feel like us as humans, just step away from the veterans, just us as humans, don't help people like they did when I was growing up. Neighbors looked out for you,
Mm-hmm.
people you didn't know. What can I do to help you? You don't even, that's like,
I would agree.
you don't
Mm-hmm.
hear that much anymore. So for me, I've always been someone that has liked to help people. Doesn't really matter in what capacity, but now I'm not just focusing on veterans, but I feel like that veterans have really become like the least of us. And what I'm doing, no one should have to do. The government should be taking care of our soldiers. Their life is on the line, and right now, at this time, we know there's war going on. We've already had a few casualties yesterday, and it's like, oh well, no, they should be taking care of veterans.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, when you think about your mission today and the work you're doing today, is there one single problem that you're most determined to solve? Can you identify and hone in on one?
It's a toss up.
And if,
It's a toss up
go ahead.
between helping veterans get their benefits or make them aware of, hey, there may be some benefits that you're not getting, and the homeless part of it.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
started with the homeless part because as doing my research, that's what I saw a lot. And there's a lot of homeless veterans. I had no knowledge of it. Thank God I've never been homeless, but I started with that. And then in doing that, after the veterans got into our homes, I just sat down with them one-on-one. It's like, hey, are you getting any benefits? So it's neck and neck. I can't hone in on one, really.
Okay, that's fine. So I use the term, and I think I'm using it correctly about your mission, about sustainable housing. And what does that mean in practical terms?
Well,
Sustainable housing.
sustainable housing means that they're not going to be chronically homeless anymore. A lot of the veterans that started out with us, their caseworkers have said, they've been chronically homeless for 5, 10, how many other years, because they were not able to sustain housing. When we started out with transitional housing, which meant a veteran would come to us. As a matter of fact, we started like right when COVID started. And it was just very difficult. There were certain entities that were helping veterans to stay in hotels, but it just got to be really expensive. So back to your question, sustainable housing means that, you can stay here for a while. You can sustain this. So in our transitional, they stayed with us anywhere from a couple of weeks, because they may have found housing on their own, or they may have went to live with a family member, all the way up to really like a year in the transitional housing. And after that, we got another property. And my thoughts were, when they leave us, the way they were in programs, sometimes the programs would only pay a portion of a rent for them, and a lot of them didn't have income. I'm like, they need to be permanently housed. I do not want to take a veteran off the street that's been temporary homeless or chronically homeless to put them in a short-term sustainable house. And then after that, then what? So after that, we purchased an apartment, and our apartment is full now, and everyone that is in our apartment came from our transitional housing. So they are in permanent sustainable housing. So to me, that's always the goal. Sometimes veterans just need temporary housing. They may be going through a divorce. They may be going something. So both are needed, but the goal for me, I don't think another veteran should be left behind. I don't think another veteran should be homeless. And that's the least.
Gotcha. Can you walk us through what happens from the moment a veteran connects with your organization? What does the step-by-step look like a little bit, at least in an overview capacity?
Okay. Well, most of the time, when we find out about a veteran, it is coming through an organization, most of the time through the VA. The VA does have a homeless department. So they will contact us to see, do we have any openings? We have any, as at that time we were doing rooms. So now it's pretty much like an apartment. They're not necessarily saying, do you have any rooms? And I depend on the case managers to, what I say, vet the vet, to make sure that they are mentally able to stay in housing. There are many reasons that, they may need to be housed, but if their mental health isn't where it needs to be, they can endanger themselves as well as be a danger to other veterans. So that's one of the first things that I want to make sure. I want to know what's going on with the veteran, what's their history. I don't need to look at medical records, but I want to know, what's going on with them. Maybe find out why they're homeless. So after they get there, and I'll just say with the transitional, because this is pretty much the pattern, the way it's been, they're in the house, and, I'll touch bases with them a couple times a week. I want them to know that they're stable. There's nothing that I tell them that they need to do other than, keep the place clean or whatever. Then after about a couple of weeks, I go over and sit down with my laptop and sit down and have a one-on-one with them to find out what is it that you need to, what is it going to take to get you sustained, whether it be housing, why are you in this situation? And some of them can be as simple as, I don't have an ID. I don't have a driver's license. I don't have a social security card. And I've ran into quite a few of those, so I'm a paralegal as well. So if it's something that I can do without reaching out to an outside entity, had one veteran that was of Asian descent, and he lost his immigration papers, and they had paid a couple of attorneys to recover these documents. So he had been chronically homeless for 5 years. Me as a paralegal was able to get his immigration papers. So he now has a social security card. He has an IED. And so now he's getting his social security and his military benefits, and he's permanently housed in our apartment. So I truly treat each one of them individually. If they're older, a lot of them, they're at retirement age. They don't necessarily want to work. They just want to have sustainable housing. The younger ones, I work with different entities to try to get them a job. There's different programs that they can work at and work for a certain amount of hours. And the employer is gracious enough to say, hey, if this is your day to go to the VA for a mental health appointment or any other doctor's appointment, they're not holding against you. And most of the time they don't take out child support or anything that would normally come out of their check because we're trying to sustain them. So that's the thing, to just get them stable, get a job, and transportation. If they need to get transportation, I try to connect with different entities that may have, older cars or whatever that will help them. So our mission is whatever is going to take to get you back to being a productive citizen, that's the goal.
Gotcha. Is there a story of a particular veteran whose journey really is emblematic of a great success story? If you had to have a poster child and maybe of one particular veteran, is there one that comes to mind?
Well, the one that I just talked about, he's one of the poster ones, like I said, that had been chronically homeless. And before he was an officer in the military. After he got out, he went through divorce. His wife took everything. He had 3 dry cleaning businesses. And for whatever reason, I believe he had turned to alcohol. So he was homeless, in and out of the system. So when he got to us, he was the first person in our second house. And we were doing the transitional housing. And I just saw Charlie come from this person that was like bent over, didn't even really want to deal with people, to really becoming very outgoing. So outgoing that the neighbors next door to this house that he was in really took a liking to Charlie. And they would take him to the grocery store, take him to church, take him this and that. So Charlie moved out of the house, and he's now in our apartment, which is like a mile away. And Charlie's getting older. He has cancer. He's still functioning and everything, but they are like his family now. They make sure his rent is in, and they call me and let me know what's going on with him. Hey, Pazz, I think we need to do this and that. So to me, that's one of the great stories. Then I have another younger veteran that was really, I'll say his drug of choice was gambling. And he was very, he just never had money, even though he was working a full-time job. His wife divorced him, didn't allow him to see the kids or whatever. So we got him into some mental health therapy that really helped with that. After about a year or so, he was able to get back with his wife. He was able to get his previous employment back. And the last that I heard, he's doing very well. Because what we do is I try to keep in touch with the veterans, whether they're with Homes for Heroic Veterans or not. I still want to know what's going on with them. So those are the two I'll say that stand out the most in a great way.
Okay. All right. Well, here's an organic question. We'll get away from the AI questions for a minute.
Okay.
So have you had the experience where a veteran comes in to the program and, again, is some kind of success story? Do you see them circling back and trying to get other veterans involved and associated with you? Do they become an advocate or help you in any way? That's a very loaded question, so I'm not sure what your answer might be.
I will say in the beginning, when we did more of the transitional, there were veterans, they would probably refer other veterans that needed our services. They would give us, great reviews. They would talk to other organizations about us. There is an organization that is a shelter. And this shelter I've had firsthand experience with and secondhand experience with from the veterans that does not treat the veterans well. And a lot of them, and I actually met with the person that owns this and runs this shelter, and they said to me, quote unquote, "You'll never have any of my veterans because you don't do drug testing." And I said, I'm not concerned about whether they're drinking or anything. We're just trying to get them back to where they need to be. So after I randomly got one of their veterans, it literally was like the Underground Railroad. There were like 6 or 7 veterans that came from there and were not being successful there because a lot of them were Uber or Lyft drivers and they have to be in by 9 o'clock. I'm not running a shelter. I am trying to get these people back to independent living. So a lot of them did refer us to other veterans. I did have some of them that would refer us to other entities that also wanted to help veterans. So yes.
Gotcha. So, how can everyday community members meaningfully support your mission?
Well, I would say the best thing to do is you can go to our website, homesforheroicveterans.com. It'll say, do you want to donate? And it gives you 3 different ways to donate financially. At this time, that's probably the best thing. A lot of people want to volunteer. Now we basically just have permanent housing until we get another an apartment building, which we're kind of looking at now. So we don't necessarily need volunteers until September when we do our golf outing. So you can also go on till we have our annual. This year it'll be, I think, our 7th annual golf outing, which is sponsored by the local business network of Sterling Heights, which I'm a part of. So there should be a place there if you would like to donate your time or, just come out and help with the golf outing. But other than that, we really need financial help because, we're still paying mortgages on these places that we are. Sometimes we have veterans that have no source of income at all. So we have to do what we can to, try to keep our doors open and expand. So, by going to the website, that's probably the best way.
Give us the website address one more time.
The website is homesforheroicveterans.com.
Perfect. Another loaded question for you here. So, if somebody happens to be watching this online, where this is eventually going to live, and they want to talk to you personally about your help, but they want to talk to somebody, are you comfortable giving out a number where people can call?
Yes, they can reach us at 586-757-2269. That's 586-757-2269. They also, when they go on the website, which is homesforheroicveterans.com, there is a form message there where you can send a message and it'll come directly to my email.
Wonderful. If you could change one policy or perception around homelessness, what do you think it might be?
That homeless people are not lazy, that homeless people want to be fulfilled in life. They weren't born homeless. This is a situation that can change and they just may be down on their luck and need some help for a moment. Sometimes it's just as little as, helping them find a job. So I think that if society really just kind of looked at themselves, especially in this day and age, a lot of people are really one paycheck away from being homeless.
Right.
One or two.
Absolutely.
So they need to really look at them not differently than they look at themselves. You can't consider yourself just to be this accomplished person to not help anyone else and to look down at anyone. Your accomplishments will be very short-lived, I feel.
Okay. If you could look 5 years down the road and see potentially what impact Homes for Heroic Veterans have had, or where you might just like to be in 5 years, what's the future look like?
In 5 years, I would like to have a veterans community. This has been the goal pretty much kind of like from day one. I would like to have a veterans community. Most of us are a part of some type of organization, whether it be the LBN group or, some type of group that you're a part of. And that's really like your family. Well, in the military, when you go to basic training, you're taken away from your parents, your family, and now you are a family of how many ever in your platoon, 25 to 30, and then you're in a company, which is 4 units of 25 or 30. So that is your family. So veterans do very well, and it's been proven through Homes for Heroic Veterans. I don't care if it's Army, Air Force, Navy, Marines, Coast Guard. I can put 3 of them in a house from all different military backgrounds, and they thrive well together. Case managers have told me this person is so much better because they're around.
Okay. Hmm.
Everything would be run by the veterans. So just to have their own village where they live, shop, eat, and thrive, that would be the goal.
Awesome. Fantastic. Yeah, I think that's a great vision. Um, I'm going to kind of weave in a couple things now because I think I talked about at the outset
Okay.
that we're both members of the local business network. So I want to make sure anybody who is watching this and knows that has maybe their small business owner and they're looking for opportunities to grow their business. So for a second, I'm going to back up. It's a
Okay.
nice thing about this technology. It'll be good on editing.
Mm-hmm.
So the local business network, we promote each other and we refer business to each other to grow our business. So if you're a small business and you're looking to grow your small business here in Macomb, Oakland, Wayne County area, contact me. You can. I'm a chapter trainer for the local business network, Sterling Heights chapter. You can call me at 586-201-0388. And know that the Sterling Heights LBN chapter, Sterling Heights, is really devoted. We do sponsor that golf outing, which we've always picked a significant day, 9/11. September 11th, 2026 will be our next golf outing. So if you want any more information on that. Before we close, Paz, any closing thoughts? Anything else
Um,
you'd like to share that we haven't got around to?
um, well, just a little new entity that we have created that goes very well with Homes for Heroic Veterans. It is Veterans Therapeutic Farming. And it's going to be just exactly what it says, Veterans Therapeutic Farming, which will allow veterans to do farming or gardening. You know, the agriculture department calls it farming, but it's gardening. Had that idea last year when Home Depot actually put a couple of grow boxes in the back of our apartment building, and I saw the female veteran just out there growing and watering, and Charlie, the other veteran that I told you about, he started growing tomatoes and things of that nature. And it really kind of gave them a camaraderie, even though they live in the same apartment building. They weren't really, you know, they were just living their life, but now they're out there doing things together, and it also has helped their mental health. So that is, I'm looking forward to that. I'm also a mentor at the 41st District Court with the Veterans Treatment Court. And I've also spoken to the judge about it because a lot of the veterans that are in this 2-year program will need some community service. So I'm looking to coordinate, you know, bring all of this together. Going to be looking at Macomb Community College. I'm going to set up something with the agricultural department because I know, you know, a lot of them need things that they have to do to fulfill whatever they're doing in their on their journey. So I'm just excited about it. I'm really excited about spring this year to see what's going to happen on that end.
Nice. Well, as we close up, while I would not be a good entrepreneur if I didn't give some kind of plug for what I do in real
Yeah.
estate. So I do residential real estate, help people buy and sell homes. And as we've talked about at our chapter meetings, I recently am involved with a program, Homes for Heroes. So
Yay.
Homes for Heroes, it's a little bit different than what Paz is doing because we're helping people who can afford to buy and sell homes. We're giving them cash back when they buy a home. And it's for people in the military, National Guard people, reservists, people who are veterans or active, but also firefighters, military, EMS, teachers, and anybody in healthcare. And to that end, too, because I want to help more veterans, because they're a big part of what we're doing for Homes for Heroic Veterans. I recently joined the VFW post in Fraser, and now I'm a member of the AVVA, and you know all about these coins,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Yep. So I got my coin now.
Here's some
So if
stories with
anybody,
coin.
well,
I
I'm
have a
not
few
asking you to
coins.
buy me a drink, but we have to have these coins. So when you're in a VFW hall and somebody wants to make sure you have your coin, if you don't have your coin, you got to buy drinks. So, anyways, I'm very committed to helping anybody when they buy or sell a home get significant cash back when they buy or sell, and it's a free program because it's underwritten by realtors like me. So, Paz, I want to thank you so much for being here today, and you're doing just the best work for the veterans, and I'm glad just to be associated with you means the world to me. So Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Kevin. I appreciate you. Thank you for taking the time out to allow me to be on your podcast, to get the word out, about the veterans. And yeah, it's. I think we did a good thing. So let's keep it going.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Paz. We'll see you at our meetings. We'll talk soon.
Okay.
And God bless anybody who watched this. Thank you for sticking around to the end. God bless you. Have a great one. And
Thank
help
you
your
all.
veterans.
Mhm.
Okay?
Bye.
Take care, everybody. See ya. Bye.